London, summer 1928. The air in the small laboratory at St. Mary's Hospital is thick, stagnant, and smells faintly of sour yeast and antiseptic. It is not the pristine, gleaming white temple of science that history books like to portray. It is a disaster zone. Piles of glass petri dishes teeter precariously on workbenches, stacked like dirty dinner plates in a bachelor's sink. Papers are strewn across every flat surface, stained with chemical rings and hasty scribbles. In the center of this calculated mayhem stands Alexander Fleming, a man who fits the room perfectly. He is not a towering figure of sterile authority. He is a brilliant, chaotic force of nature, a Scotsman with a sharp mind and a notoriously messy workspace. He rubs his eyes, the fatigue of a long, frustrating summer settling deep in his bones. Fleming is fighting a war, but he is losing. His enemy is Staphylococcus, a spherical, golden bacterium that lives on the skin and in the noses of millions.
In 1928, this microscopic organism is a serial killer. There are no antibiotics. There is no magic pill. If you cut your finger gardening or scratch your knee falling off a bicycle, you are rolling dice with death. If the staph infection takes hold, it will spread through your blood, boiling you from the inside out. Doctors in this era are little more than compassionate observers. They can lance boils, they can amputate limbs, but they cannot stop the infection once it begins to march. Fleming knows this horror intimately. He watched soldiers die by the thousands in the field hospitals of World War I, helpless as simple wounds turned into gangrenous death sentences. He has spent years searching for a chemical sniper that can take out the bacteria without killing the patient. But every experiment ends in failure. Now, the heat of August is making the lab unbearable. The window, overlooking the bustling Parade Street, is propped open in a desperate attempt to catch a breeze.
Dust, soot, and the invisible spores of the city drift in, mingling with the scientific samples. Fleming is done. He needs a break. He has a vacation booked with his family in Suffolk, and his mind is already drifting to the seaside. He looks around the room, at the clutter, at the dozens of petri dishes filled with agar jelly and growing colonies of staph bacteria. Proper protocol, the rigid, unforgiving law of the laboratory, demands that he clean this up. He should sterilize the plates. He should scrub the benches. He should leave the workspace spotless for his return. But he is tired. He is human. He looks at the stack of cultures sitting on the corner of the bench, exposed to the air. "I'll deal with it when I get back," he mutters to the empty room. It is a moment of profound laziness, a lapse in discipline that would get a junior student expelled. He gathers his coat and hat, turning his back on the mess. He leaves the cultures stacked high, unwashed and forgotten. He walks to the door, his footsteps echoing on the linoleum. He pauses for a second, perhaps a twinge of guilt, but shakes it off. He steps out, and the heavy door slammed shut. The lab falls silent. The only movement is the slow drift of dust motes in the shaft of light coming from that open window, carrying with them the invisible seeds of chance. The room waits in the sweltering London heat, a petri dish of destiny left to simmer for 2 long weeks.
September 3rd, 1928. Monday morning. The vacation is over, and the reality of the return hits Alexander Fleming the moment he opens the lab door. The room is exactly as he left it, stifling, cluttered, and chaotic. The air is stale. He drops his bag and sighs. The phantom sound of the ocean replaced by the hum of London traffic outside. There is no premonition of greatness here, no angelic choir singing in the background. There is only the mundane, irritating chore of cleaning up a 2-week-old mess. He takes off his jacket, rolls up his sleeves, and walks over to the workbench where the stack of neglected petri dishes still sits, gathering dust. He begins the process of disposal. It is a rhythmic, mindless task. He picks up a glass dish, glances at the bacterial colonies to see if anything interesting happened during his absence, usually just an overgrowth of the same deadly staph, and then tosses the culture into a large rectangular metal tray filled with Lysol. Clink, Splash.
Hiss. The disinfectant is the executioner, drowning the bacteria in a bubbling chemical bath. Fleming is essentially a janitor in this moment, clearing the decks so he can start real work again. He works his way down the stack. 1 dish, trash. 2 dishes, trash. 3 dishes, trash. He is efficient, unsentimental, and moving fast. The stack dwindles. He reaches for a dish near the bottom, one that had been sitting closest to the edge of the bench. He picks it up. It is contaminated. A blob of blue-green mold, likely a spore that drifted in from the mycology lab downstairs or through that open window, has bloomed on one side of the agar. It looks ruined. It looks like garbage. Fleming's hand moves toward the tray of Lysol. The trajectory is set. In less than a second, this glass plate will hit the disinfectant, the mold will die, and the secret it holds will be erased forever. Gravity and intention are pulling it down into the abyss of forgotten history. At that exact moment, the door handle turns.
Merlin Price, a former colleague, steps into the lab to say hello. The interruption startles Fleming. He halts his hand in midair, the dish hovering inches above the chemical bath. He turns to greet Price, the ruined dish still clutched in his fingers. They exchange pleasantries. How was the holiday? Good to see you. It is the most trivial of conversations, mere noise filling the space between events. Fleming, distracted by the chat, doesn't throw the dish. Instead, he pulls it back. He looks down at it, perhaps to explain to Price what a mess he has to clean up. He sighs, ready to finish the motion he started. He grips the glass, preparing to toss it. But then, his eyes catch something. He stops. The world seems to tilt on its axis. The background noise of the hospital fades away. The breathing of his colleague, the rumble of the street, the ticking of the clock. It all vanishes. Fleming frowns. He brings the dish closer to his face, adjusting his glasses. He isn't looking at the mold itself. He is looking at the space around the mold. He tilts the glass to catch the light. His heart skips a beat, not out of excitement, but out of confusion. The muscle memory of throwing the dish away fights against the curiosity of the scientist. He freezes, standing on the precipice of a new era, holding a piece of glass that he had deemed worthless just 3 seconds ago.
That's funny. 2 words. Not eureka, not I have found it. Just a murmur of mild perplexity. Alexander Fleming stares at the petri dish, and what he sees defies the laws of his microscopic world. On the rest of the plate, the golden colonies of Staphylococcus are thriving, angry and dense. But surrounding that blob of intrusive blue-green mold, there is a clear, transparent halo. It is a no man's land, a kill zone. Inside that circle, the deadly bacteria haven't just stopped growing, they have dissolved. They have been obliterated. It is as if the mold has secreted a chemical force field, an invisible weapon that melts the armor of one of the deadliest killers in human history. Fleming's annoyance evaporates, replaced by the cold, sharp focus of a hunter. He realizes instantly that this is not a failed experiment. This is a massacre on a cellular level. He grabs a scraping tool, his hands trembling slightly now, not from age, but from adrenaline.
He touches the mold. He needs to save it. He needs to keep it alive. If he had thrown this dish into the Lysol, the mold juice, as he would later call it, would have been lost. The chemical structure of penicillin would have dissolved into the disinfectant, and with it, the lives of hundreds of millions of people. The next few hours are a blur of frantic activity. Fleming abandons the cleanup. He begins to culture the mold, feeding it, nurturing it, trying to extract the mysterious substance it produces. He discovers that even when diluted 1,000 times, this juice is potent enough to kill the bacteria that cause pneumonia, meningitis, and diphtheria. He realizes he has found the magic bullet he spent a decade searching for. It wasn't a complex chemical synthesis or a stroke of theoretical genius. It was a spore, drifting on the wind, landing on a forgotten plate, Discovered because he was too lazy to clean up before a holiday and too distracted to throw it away immediately upon his return. The weight of this moment is crushing. Think of the soldiers dying of infected scratches in the trenches. Think of the mothers dying of puerperal fever after childbirth. Think of the children dying of strep throat. All of that suffering, all of that death was held in check by the contents of this single, dirty petri dish. If Fleming had been a more organized man, he would have covered his cultures, and the mold would never have landed. If he had been a more focused man, he would have thrown the dish away before Price walked in. The line between the Middle Ages of medicine, where a blister could mean a funeral, and the modern world, where we survive surgery and infection as a matter of routine, is 3 seconds wide. It is the time it took for a man to pause, look at his own mistake, and see a miracle. Today, every time you take a pill to fight an infection, you are swallowing the legacy of that pause. You are living in the timeline where Fleming didn't throw the dish. It forces us to ask, how many miracles have we thrown away because they looked like mistakes? How many answers are hiding in the clutter we are so desperate to clean up? The universe doesn't always shout its secrets. Sometimes it just whispers. That's funny, and waits to see if you are listening.